I think appealing to evolution to answer this question, if God exists, is a red herring. Because it commits the genetic fallacy, which is to invalidate a view, looking at, analysing how it originates. It will not enlighten us whether God exists or not. And one could even argue that atheism can be explained for psychological reasons. We can say that they have father issues, and they see God as the father figure, and they want to deny God's existence.
Would be true of some atheists.
Yes, but it wouldn't enlighten us if God exists or not.
What's the greatest piece of evidence that you can bring to the table today?
Well, for me personally, I think the origin of the universe. I think
the Big Bang.
The Big Bang. I think if we probe the observable universe, we will find transcendent signposts. Science will never be able to explain.
The universe.
Science will never be able to explain how something can come from nothing.
Why not?
Because
you see, that's the
science only works in a physical realm. I mean, it can only explain to you how one physical process can happen to another physical process governed by natural law.
But you can never explain how God came into
existence. The Big Bang, if I may finish, yes, is the literal origin of all space and time. Now, suppose, whilst we're speaking now, you hear a loud bang.
You're wrong.
And, sorry, if I can just finish. You hear a loud bang, and then we ask the question, what caused that bang? And Peter says it happened by itself. No one is going to accept that. That would be an unintelligible response.
But why not?
The same reason applies to the Big Bang. If there is a cause for the little bang, there's a cause for the Big Bang.
You see, this is a typical anthropomorphic argument. What you're doing is you're saying, look, we understand in this universe that A causes B, B causes C. And so you trace it back, and you trace it back to a time, if you can use that expression, before the laws of science actually existed. It is improper to extrapolate your experience of causality in this universe to before when the universe existed. It's so naive.
So then how can you then argue?
But let's let Adam come back. Pastor, I will come to you forthwith. But let's Adam.
So then how can you argue that science will come with an explanation of how the universe came into existence? If there are no laws, there's no physical reality.
Look how far science has come with understanding the nature of the universe back to a trillionth of a second after the Big Bang in the past 100 years compared with the progress that the likes of you made, I speak very kindly, over the past 3,000 years.
That science will explain something from coming from nothing.
Yeah,
to believe that something that's worse than magic.
No. You're
advocating magic.
So this is the uncaused cause or whatever. Yeah, the first cause. What caused the causer?
We, as rational beings, we know that whatever begins to exist needs a cause.
Right.
And the universe began to exist.
What caused God?
Well, that's a ridiculous question of why. That's like saying, what caused and uncaused?
David Aronovich.
Well, I mean, straightforward on a logical basis, if everything has to have a cause, then something would have had to have created the thing that caused the cause.
That's the caricature.
So actually you end up in exactly the same position as anybody else does with the fact that you don't actually know. The difference between us is that you have a great kind of collection of intuitions which people have come to, and causal arguments, a little bit like my belief that if I listen to Tottenham Hotspur on the radio, they will lose. This is my superstition. Or my daughters believe that those strange things on the pavement, if you walk on them, it will cause you bad luck, or any other kind of superstitions. You require a causal link, and you have attached to that an incredible superstructure of religious and cultural thought which you adduce to be true. Now, by and large, that is no great problem to me, and so on, but it is a great problem to you.
I think this is the big problem in it.
Francesca,
it illustrates...
biblical scholar.
Thank you. It illustrates, I think, this major misunderstanding about what the main Western monotheistic faiths and their creation stories are all about. What we're dealing with, it seems to me, are Muslims, Jews and Christians in a modern, contemporary, Western, intellectualised mindset who want to engage with science and want to engage with telescopes that look deep, deep, deep into the universe past. But the fact is that their religion and their faith commitments are based on ancient texts from ancient societies.
Which is supported by modern science, which is supported by the Big Bang, the initial conditions of the universe.
Can I finish? These texts weren't produced by societies that were ever interested...
and religion.
Can I finish?
You may.
Thanks. These texts weren't produced by societies that were ever interested in an original question, where are we all from? Not even in the Quran. I mean, to be honest, a lot of these traditions about creation, don't image creation as a one-off event at the beginning of time.
God speaks
it shows creation as happening over and over and over and over
Mohammed,
again.
what is your greatest, Mohammed Hattatat, what is your greatest piece of evidence that you can adduce for God?
Yeah, before that, let's talk about the Big Bang. Please, yes, the Big Bang. Okay. Because to say that theories like the Big Bang is in the ancient books, that's not true. The Big Bang is not mentioned in either the Old or the New Testament. It's only mentioned in the Quran. The difference in the Quranic Big Bang and the scientific Big Bang is as follows. The Big Bang in science, and modern day science, is a bang that happened that the whole universe was a single entity that exploded. While in the Quran tell us that the whole universe was a single entity, and then God caused it to explode, but with controlled. It was controlled explosion.
We're onto something, right.
So this, excuse me, let me finish. So this controlled explosion leads to a known result. While every other explosion we know, every bang we know, leads to destruction and no known results. So when we bang the Hiroshima, no new...
Andrew Pinson, you're a physicist, is he right?
I can't comment. I'm not a Quranic expert, so I can't comment on
the physics, though.
On the physics.
Controlled or uncontrolled.
I think the key battleground about evidence for God using reason is really in the area of philosophy more than science. And science shades off into philosophy at some point. But that's where the real battleground is. So it's slightly, people tend to argue past one another a little bit when it comes to just science alone.
But isn't that idea of the cosmological constant? It's this number, this tuning that has to be right within something like 120 decimal places. Is that not a real problem for you, Peter?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a real problem, and we think we understand the nature of it as well. The point about scientific approach to understanding the origin of the universe is that it
fine-tuning of the universe.
It simplifies the kind of questions that one should ask in the expectation of getting answers. And one of them is the fine-tuning. Another is to say, well, okay, a lot of energy had to be made at the inception of the universe. How much energy was made? And science, what science does and what religion does not, is to provide an answer to that second question. And it says the amount of let Peter finish. The amount of energy that had to be created at the beginning was absolutely zero. So if you extrapolate that to the amount of work that God had to do at the time, you can see that he didn't have to do anything at all. What science is doing is really getting to the core of what actually happened on day dot.
There's a false dichotomy. If you're an atheist, you somehow support the progress of science. If you're a theist, then you want to quash it. No.
Well, no, that's not the case. He's a scientist.
Yeah, well,
they understand science. They accept evolution. They
Absolutely. So what we're saying here, as a theist, what we're saying is that as a theist, we hold that the universe has an origin, and the universe was fine-tuned for the existence of intelligent life. And anyone who holds that falls within mainstream science. Of course, these achievements are tentative, and they're open to change. But at the current moment, everything points to God.
No, it doesn't, because there are many explanations of why why the universe is fine-tuned for life. One point is that a universe couldn't come into existence except with the fundamental constants that we've now got.
But that's begging the question, Peter.
And it's just
begging the question. Why were they fine-tuned?
And it is just a happy accident.
Did we just get lucky then?
We just got lucky.
We just got lucky.
Another one, which is actually gaining ground, is
so what we have...
Let them finish.
Is that there are trillions and trillions.
So we have chance of the gaps rather than God of the gaps.
Please be quiet while I'm on trying to put you right. That there are trillions and trillions and trillions of universes, each with it may be a different mix of fundamental constants. And it is not in the least surprising that one of these turns out to be appropriate for life.
OK, well, let's talk about God in our... I just wonder, there's something else here. I know, Diana, you're desperate to get in, but... And you can address this question as well. Let's move on to God in our everyday lives. I mean, that was fascinating. But God in our... I just wonder...
That's exactly what I was
David, well, David, let's consider this, if you will. David, I'll get you to answer this question. There are moments, and we all have them, when we look at someone we love and we just feel elevated. We feel a sublime, transcendent. I saw it when Peter was looking across at Adam there. No, but we feel a sublime, transcendent moment, or we see something utterly beautiful, and we feel something incredible. Is that? Some people think that is when we're close to God.
Yeah, I've heard this a lot. I mean, I was recently in hospital and I went bonkers for 4 days. I had 4 days of delusions. Those delusions to me were utterly and completely real. The mind is an absolutely extraordinary thing. It's hugely varied, it's incredibly evolved, and it is far more flexible than people believe.
But that feeling of sheer love and transcendent beauty.
Well, sometimes you feel that. Sometimes you feel, my God, it's a horrible, bloody rainy day and I wish I wasn't going out in it. And that person is really getting on my nerves and so on. The moments we don't talk about. And so why should we ascribe God to the moment when we feel that kind of moment of love and not God also to that moment where we feel pretty crappy, for instance, which is also quite a lot of the things that we feel. I don't feel the need, in a sense, in other words, when I feel good, to think, I feel really good, somebody must have given that to me.
I'm not just talking about, it's not just feeling good, is it?
No.
It's not, explain to him.
I think in practice, for many of us, certainly for myself, a sense of awe in studying the cosmos is often the beginning of a movement towards a faith. And certainly for myself, studying certain objects in mathematics and science, particularly particle physics, gave me an extraordinary sense of order.
What's interesting is why you need that.
Now, that's not enough to convert someone, but often it's enough to start moving someone. But what often, for me personally, it's not just the sense of awe, but also the sense of the fruitfulness in the world.
And, what about the death and the famine and the disease and the murder?
I'm talking about the fruitfulness of faith in so many areas, in art and in music, and in particular the lives of the saints, because every now and again we produce extraordinary individuals who, I suppose, and now I'm putting on my theologian's hat, who sort of show the face of God in some way or other.
But we produce extraordinary individuals who are not saints, don't we? We produce lots and lots of, in fact, many more extraordinary individuals who are not saints.
Martin Luther King was no saint, but he was an extraordinary individual.
Yes. Yes.
Go on.
Well, I just want to, because, sorry, lots of people across the room have been talking about the idea that the Big Bang and some of science, that God might be guiding this. And I just think if God is somehow guiding evolution and the development of the Earth and all the planets, could he not have guided it in a way that had a little bit less famine and that didn't have motor neuron disease and cancer and all these other things?
Why is that, Pastor? Because you address this issue, don't you? Why did God create, E. coli and horrible diseases and parasites that burrow into the eyes of children in sub-Saharan Africa? Why did God create those things?
Well, I believe that God exists, and but there's also, we need to look at the argument from the idea of also the spiritual side. We don't just look at the physical side. If we argue from just the physical side, we have a truncated view of reality and of the word, because there's a spiritual reality, there's also a physical reality. Okay? And so the evil that we see in the world, according to what I know from the biblical record, is that there is an evil. Evil is real. There is Satan, there is a devil.
Why did
children
get leukemia?
Illness and sicknesses and evil are coming away. It came because of sin.
Because of sin?
Because of sin. In God there is no sin in God. God is pure, God is holy.
So is God punishing us for...
God allows things to happen in our lives.
You don't like this, Stephen, do you?
No, I don't. I'm happy on two fronts. First of all, that those, if you like, who are opposed to God are trying to put my understanding of God into a particular box where he's got anthropomorphic character, where he's a guy in the sky almost, and I'm not interested in that at all.
No, I'm not saying that.
Well, just a second, let me just finish. And secondly, there is a desire somehow or other to make God into somebody who directly intervenes in the world day by day and does things to people. No, he doesn't. That's not the way in which my understanding of ultimate reality,
how on earth
which is
God, get the impression that religious people believe that?
Because some religious people do believe that.
And
some other religious people don't believe
that.
The Bible actually...
Does he answer prayers?
He does.
Does he answer prayers?
In the way in which I understand God acting, yes, he does, because he works within me to enable me to perhaps be a better person than actually I am. He works through the arrows, in a sense, of goodness, truth, beauty, love, etc., which are the way in which make up that ultimate reality which I understand to be God.
Ladies and gentlemen, meet the Reverend Kim Go, who is he was a former triad gangster. He's now a Methodist minister. He went to prison. 357 counts. Put your hands together for him. He found Jesus. And Jesus changed your life. The first time you were in prison, God spoke to you, didn't he?
Yes, he sure did.
Literally?
And I wasn't looking for religion. The last thing I want to know is Christianity, God. Look after number one. But guess what? I swore at him and he spoke to me. It's just like an atheist. What do you believe in? Can I pose that question to you, Dave? What does atheists believe in?
Well, no, I don't believe there's a God. Right. It's an absence of belief.
Atheists don't believe in anything, right? Nothing. Hang on. I'm speaking. I didn't interrupt you when you speak. Please.
You wanted to.
Atheists believe in nothing. Is it still something they believe in? Nothing.
When you say God spoke to you, what do you mean? Did you hear his voice?
Yes, just like you and me talking, and I thought I was hallucinating.
Maybe you were hallucinating.
It sounded like you talking to me.
Okay, what did it sound like?
Like we're having a conversation, a voice.
What language was he speaking?
English. I was speaking to me in English. I was effing him in English.
Was it a soft voice? Was it a loud voice, an insistent voice?
No, it wasn't loud. It's no thunder and lightning. It's like a normal conversation.
What did he say?
Well, because I was effing at him, because of the vicar or the chaplain, and then he said, why are you swearing at me? And I thought for a moment, one of the other convicts over there was a ventriloquist.
Which he might have been.
So I was about to arrange their face. And I looked around and they were doing their own thing, smoking or, talking. Yeah. So I have another go at him. And I believe he got up from the wrong side of the bed that morning. He took offense to me swearing. Of course, a lot of people swear.
But what was the feeling that you had at that moment?
Let me explain the feeling. When I swear a second time, he said, look, why are you swearing at me? Is it me or the chaplain who was impatient with you? Mm-hmm. Next thing I know, I was on my knees. I didn't want to cry. Tears were running down. But I was feeling this simultaneous emotion at the same time. A feeling of, sadness and a feeling of joy.
And this has revolutionized your life. You're a different person.
It has. And I could not explain until today why I'm able to have a simultaneous emotional feeling of joy and sadness at the same time. You try it yourself. Any of you can do that and prove it to me.
Sorry, it was a shame that God didn't show up before you committed all those crimes.
But listen, you've got them all going. Look at this. Peter Atkins. Peter Atkins.
How would you tell the difference between...
Oh, you try and smoke wacky in the prison. See if you can get it.
How would you tell the difference between your experience and a hallucination?
How am I going to hallucinate? Can you hallucinate now for me? I don't take no drugs then. In the prison, I got no drinks, alcohol, nothing. And I was in a mood of anger at the vicar.
Yeah, it's called hallucination.
Why would I want to...
as a result of it, though, your life has been utterly transformed.
Amen to that.
Amen to that. And you're a preacher. Yeah.
I
am. Okay, David, go on.
Why are you so reluctant to acknowledge the possibility of hallucination? As I said, I had 4 days of hallucinations.
I've hallucinated before.
No.
I've taken LSD before.
I know, but answer me.
I know what hallucination.
But answer me this, because
because
I spent 4 days hallucinating. I thought the nurses in the hospital were going to kill me. Then I thought they were going to eat me. I thought the people who didn't exist in the next bed were plotting to have me taken away and murdered and so on. I absolutely believe this. I believe this as firmly as I believe that I'm speaking to you now. It wasn't until afterwards that I could understand that these were actually hallucinations. In other words, all I'm saying is that the mind is an extraordinary
thing. That was post-operative psychosis that you had, wasn't it? Yeah. But Francesco, in the Bible, if we read, if any Christian, any believer read an account such as Kim's in the Bible, they would say, God spoke to him. Yeah. But now there's a level of skepticism about it.
Because my story is mine. Who are you to tell me my story is not true? None of you could do that.
Francesca,
Can I tell you about your life is false?
Myriad examples in the Bible. Wait a minute. Myriad examples in the Bible of God speaking directly to people, as Kim claims God spoke directly to him, aren't there?
And given that they're in the Bible, these people and their experiences, which I think broadly are primarily fictitious, but these people and their experiences are therefore special, and they become special in tradition, and they become special in the community. And I think to a certain degree, modern days people's experience of God speaking to them makes them feel special as well. And that's not to judge it, it's simply to say that it sets you out, it sets you apart from the rest.
The way I arrived at atheism was I took a course, it's called the Psychoanalytic Study of Society, and they told us the delusions of a man named Schreber, who was a German judge, and he thought that God was going to make him a woman and inseminate him, and he showed me the allegories between the Annunciation of the Virgin Mary and this man's account of how God was going to inseminate him so he could bring forth a new race of human beings. And the delusion, the schizophrenic delusion, and the story of the Annunciation were so similar that I realized that the human mind can fabricate, and I'm really glad it had such a wonderful effect on your life.
And I'm not David Koresh.
I think it's quite important to avoid labels like schizophrenia. I think to
But Muhammad believed clearly when he went. If you believe that it's the word of God, you believe it's the word of God. But if you don't, you've got to say that he believed it, didn't he? That he was getting.
Well, exactly. But that's the key point. It's about interpretation. You don't have to label it as hallucination or schizophrenia if people have this experience. What seems to be important, I think, in terms of maintaining everybody's dignity and respecting everyone's religious positions, is that this is about interpretation. And your interpretation of what you experience might be very different from somebody else in that experience who may interpret it very differently.
But you actually said it was fictitious.
I said
primarily fictitious.
The stories are fictitious.
The stories are fictitious. You're actually saying that people's stories within the Bible are fictitious.
Well, I'm not saying that eyewitness accounts, no.
No, you know, I think you'll be very careful about using that sort of language, because those stories of people's experience, for example, of Jesus and what he did and the way he lived, people's experience of God within the latter part of the New Testament, were real to them and important to them, and you're saying they're fictitious, they're rubbish, they're lies.
I think that they're fictitious. I'm not factual. I didn't say that.
Well, okay, but you've got to be very careful, I think, as a biblical scholar, of saying that they are fictitious.
Only a few minutes ago, I'm sorry, but only a few minutes ago, you were saying that you didn't believe in a God who intervened, and you didn't believe in this, and you didn't believe in this, and that it was we shouldn't anthropomorphise God, and that we were putting people in boxes, and we shouldn't do this. And now you're talking about stories in the Bible being literally true. Stories in the Bible about prophets, about people meeting God, about miracles being performed, virgin births. I mean, either these things are literally true, and we've got an interventionist God, or we haven't.
No, I don't actually believe we have got an interventionist God, but I will...
So they are fictitious.
So it's fiction, the Bible, exactly as Francesca
said.
I
actually will allow people their own experience and the right to have their own experience, and that being true to them. And in my own life, there have been things that may have happened to me, which I feel are important to me, but have pointed, in a sense, I like to think of a whole load of arrows that have helped get me to a disclosure situation where actually I suddenly take the decision, actually I do believe in this God. Some days I don't believe quite so much, but other days I do, because there's enough there to make me jump over that particular thing.
Scientists will tell us that we are pattern-seeking mammals. We look for reasons and we look for patterns. But it's interesting what you said there was some days you believe less than others.
Yes,
what makes you not believe?
I think, like, any person who is searching for faith, and I hope I'm still searching for faith, you constantly try to listen to those who disagree with you. You try and grow in your faith. You try and learn more about your faith.
Why do you search for... Sorry, can I ask this? Why do you search for it?
Because I believe that I have a spiritual dimension within me which needs to be fed, and that's one of the important things.
But that's exactly a huge... Because this is the thing, and lots of people feel like there's a gap in their lives, and if that happens to be a gap that God happens to fit, well, that's evidence for God.
No, I don't actually feel a gap.
Let me finish. The existence of a gap doesn't mean that something exists to fill that gap. That's the argument that says every colander is a bowl. It's not. Some gaps are just gaps, and yes, we all feel emptiness sometimes.
No,
that doesn't mean there's a God.
David, what were you going to say? Sorry.
No, I find this takes it back to the human need for the thing rather than the thing itself. You have decided to search for it. Hardly surprisingly, quite often you find it because you are actively searching for it. And in a way, that's what the distinction here in this discussion is about. You, on this side, you're always searching for the thing. You lean towards it, you want it to be, you conjure it into existence, you will do everything that you can to do that. Myself, I'm speaking to that, and actually, quite often you do no harm in doing that. Sometimes you do, often that you don't. Myself, I don't have that need, so I don't search for it, neither do I feel the need to search against
it. Well, that's fine, David, that belongs to you, but I actually have experienced in my life sometimes transcendence, some sense of the other.
Is that what we were talking about earlier on?
Some sense of God, something which is out beyond me, something which you might describe as ultimate reality. That has become real to me.
What is that feeling? What is that feeling?
What is that
feeling? It was looking at a thing of great beauty or love, the feeling of love, is it what we were trying to...
Actually, sometimes being taken out of myself by beautiful music, which has taken me way beyond any taken me to a different place, elevated me in a way that's closer to God. Sometimes when I've sat in a beautiful place in the country and actually thought, what is all this about?
Touched by God.
I have felt something which is beyond me, something of the ultimate reality.
Do you think that we atheists do not feel the same sense of grandeur and wonder at the world? Of course we do.
Of course you do. Fine, absolutely. And that's led me down my road and it's led you down your road. What's the problem?
But instead of...
Well, wait a minute, Kate. When he feels that sense of wonder, is he touched by God? And he doesn't know it.
That's up to him to decide whether he does or not.
We're looking for truth. And it's either...
So am I.
No, you're looking for truth inside yourself.
I'm looking for truth too. I'm engaged in a search around this issue. You also are engaged in the same search. You come to a different conclusion.
Patsy, Jesus found you as well, didn't he? Because, through a tragedy that would be so difficult. Patsy's son was shot. Dory.
Jesus or God?
Sorry? What? Sorry.
Was it Jesus who found it or God? Sorry.
Well, now we're into a theological issue between Islam and Christianity about the Holy Trinity and the single God, which we're not actually debating this morning, but Mohammed, I appreciate your contribution. Patsy, so Dory was shot, and it would shake the faith of many people, but your life was transformed. You believe it was for a reason.
Yeah, I do believe that my life was transformed after the death of my son. But I believe I actually was getting there before that. I had different experiences in my life because I believe in God, I believe he exists, and I believe what the Bible tells me, what other people believe is their, that's their way of living, okay? And no one can tell me what I believe isn't true, and I'm not telling anyone else what they believe isn't true, because I think God is it's a personal thing about God for me. So when my son was shot and killed, I was asking the God that I believed in, well, couldn't you save him? Couldn't you, do something? Why is he dead? But because I have faith, and one of the verses in the Bible that actually kind of got a hold of me. It said, I think it's in Romans, it said, all things are working together for the good of those who love God. And I know I was a person who loved him, even though some people don't think he exists. I know he exists, because he speaks to me as well. We have conversations on a daily basis.
What do you mean? Can I explore that a little bit with you?
Well, I talk to him about my own personal life, and he talks to me about things, and he revealed things to me, and I will say things to people, and they said, how did you know that? So I believe that's God doing that for me.
Do you hear a voice, or is it something more subtle than that?
It's, I think the odd times it's more from within.
From a feeling?
Not a feeling, it's a talk. It's like you having a conversation with someone and you're hearing their voice.
Okay.
Do you get me saying? That's for me anyway. So when I looked at what has happened after that, obviously I was in pain. I really believe everything...
Where was he when Dory was shot? Where was God?
Where was he? I think I was asked that question once before by a television person, and I said right where he was when his son was being crucified for the sins of the world. Exactly the same place. So what I'm saying is that that's where he is and that's where he is. But I personally believe that the earth actually belongs to us. Okay? And we have dominion and authority, but not only that, we are like God. That's what I believe. We are like God.
Why do tsunamis happen? What about the tsunami, for example?
Well, I really believe, again, it has to do with us, because we are kind of, according to the word, and that's what I believe, we are in charge of down here. Yeah? And we have a choice. Psalms 82 said, ye are gods, but you will die like men. So it's really important for me that we recognize that everything we speak and everything we say, we are creating all the time. Some people don't believe that, but I believe we are creating. We create with our lips and with our words, just like the Genesis says, and God spoke and it was so. Do you see what I mean?
Did Dory have to die for this to happen?
I don't say he had to die. Everyone's going to die anyway. And there's nobody here, when we came into the world, it said, well, you've got 2 years to live or 4 years to live. We don't know that. You know, and we know everyone's going to die. That's where we're going. And for the Christians, we say death is the best thing. So, you know what I mean? When we die, we're going back to where we came from. So if that is so, and that's what I believe, then I really believe everything is working, you know what I mean? And it's working, there's a plan and a purpose.
And of course, one day you believe that you'll be reunited with your son.
Oh, I do believe that. Yeah. It's amazingly, because soon after he died, I remember I was in the back garden doing something, and all of a sudden I heard his voice, and he says, "Mummy, why are you so sad?" And I said, I looked round first of all, you know, he's just, you know, died maybe a couple of weeks ago, and then I said, "Because I miss you," and he said, "I'm fine, I'm all right." And that actually gave me another kind of a peace within me, and to go forward, you know what I mean, to do the things that I need to do. And I'm here today because my son died. I really wouldn't be here. I really wouldn't be doing the things that I'm doing. You know, I would be sat in church, doing what would normally do to church, go to church, read the Bible, pray, and
you're helping guys reform.
And no, yes. So I really believe there is a God. And there's no doubt about it. As far as I'm concerned.
And Diana, she's inferred from what's happened that there's been a reason, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a beautiful story, and I think that if that's improved your life, that's fine. For me, I actually don't have any problem with people being religious unless it keeps them from understanding the world rationally, if it prevents them. And then I also think that religion, in a certain way, really encourages a certain kind of good behavior, but not other kinds of good behavior. I think religious morality is very circumscribed, and I think that religious people are often good to other religious people within their faith, but they're often not good to other people. They're not good to animals. And these are the things that are important to me.
I'm not religious.
You're not
I don't
religious.
I don't believe in religion. I believe in God. And for me, God is God. I don't believe in religion. Yes. Religion has caused too much problems. I believe in God, and that's what I believe. I believe Jesus died for me, and that's what I believe. What other people believe is up to them, but we'll find out sooner or later when we die. Is that right? I believe that.
You can believe in something that isn't true, and it can be a source of great strength. So this is not evidence for the existence of God.
No, I'm not saying it's evidence. I'm not giving evidence here. I'm not giving evidence. I'm telling you of my personal experience and what I believe. I'm not here to prove anything or give evidence.
Everyone on the front bench there is believing in something that is not true.
Everyone over there is believing in something as well. We all believe in something.
Any hands up? Yes, sir. What would you like to say? Good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Hi.
I was just going to say 2 points about this evidence, if there's a God here. I was just going to ask, some things exist outside the realms of science and understanding, because we haven't found out about it yet. You know, the planet that was recently found out,
Kepler 22b.
Yeah, it didn't just suddenly magically appeared. It always existed, but it just took our time for us to find it. And I think God is basically the same thing. It doesn't need our belief or our thinking. He is real. We just have to find him.
Do you think God created? The gentleman there has raised a fascinating point, and I'm going to come to other people in the audience with your hands up. But if there were to be life elsewhere, Kepler 22b or Kepler 22c or wherever, did God create that life as well?
Oh, well, actually,
is he their God too?
Well, C.S. Lewis wrote a very good essay about this called Religion and Rocketry. He goes through all the issues. I think the main concerns of us, for ourselves, are whether there's life out there which is intelligent and which also suffers from original sin, because then we've got problems on our hands if they're more technologically advanced than we are.
Because they're coming to get us.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, I think people naively think if we make more scientific or technical progress, as they imagine advanced civilization to be, they automatically become better, and that's not necessarily the case. That's where the moral issues come back in.
Right. Okay.
So for my,
yes. Over here, madam. Yeah. Morning.
I was just going to say, on the point of the Bible and whether it's fictitious or not, whether or not it's fictitious is irrelevant because it's been edited, translated, and as a writer myself, I know how important that is to the meaning of text. Now, meaning can be twisted and convoluted as a form of control. And that's what I kind of believe organised religion is. It's not to say you can't be spiritual, but you can be spiritual without God. I am in awe of the universe. I think it's an amazing place. But why do I need to believe it was created by something?
Well, of course, Mohammed, I know what you're saying. Your eyes are twinkling there. You're going to say that the Bible is edited and stitched together, but you're going to say that the Quran is unaltered.
Absolutely right.
The Word of God.
The Word of God. And it is there to prove it isn't. It's very easy to prove that the Bible is not the Word of God, because at least we have more than one Bible. So they are disputing with each other. While the Quran, excuse me, but while the Quran, it says in it many times, this is the Word of God, and prove it is not. It has no contradiction.
Okay, Kay wants to have a go at the Quran, and I wish her good luck. But first of all, all right, okay, finish your point.
Yeah. The Quran is the only book in the world that says, this is the book of God. By the way, the Bible doesn't say that. It says, this is the book of God. Has it not been from God, it would have had many contradictions and discrepancies.
It has tons. Yeah.
That's what it says. Has it not been from God, it would have had many discrepancies and contradictions.
Have loads of discrepancies and contradictions.
Only God, as an author, can say this. No other human can claim this, because once you find one mistake in it, and when you find contradiction, that you have broken the link there. But then we have the book of God, and then it describes himself and tells a lot of things. So far, we have found nothing wrong with this book.
There should be no...
Okay, sorry, let me...
Guy, first of all.
Guy. Two mistakes in the Quran. Number one, the Trinity does not include the Virgin Mary. And number two, Mary, the mother of Jesus, is not the same person as Miriam, the sister of Aaron. That's just two mistakes. There's loads and loads of
I just want to come back on this thing. I'm sorry, let me jump in. What you're saying, Mohammed, is that if we cannot find a contradiction in the Quran, then it's true. Well, I can't find any contradictions in Harry Potter. I can't find any contradictions in The Lord of the Rings. It doesn't mean they're true, does it?
No.
Also, it says, does it not say, this is what some people argue, it says at one point, there should be no compulsion in religion, and later on it says, kill all people who are guilty of apostasy. Which is right.
No, the Quran does not say that.
Adam.
Does not say kill people who apostate. The Quran does not say that.
Yes, it does.
No, that's
9:05, is it?
Come on, let's be.
Or is it 9:39?
Let's be civilised and be academic here.
It
does not say kill people who apostatize. The verse is talking about fighting are to do with what we call a justified war theory. It's when you're under attack, you're allowed to defend yourself and to invade into countries where people are being oppressed. If you want to talk about violence in the Quran. Now, those contradictions that you mention, name me one academic, one scholar of Islamic studies that says that that is the case. I've not heard anyone. I've not heard anyone say who are non-Muslim.
Hold on, but do you accept that if you had been born in Kerala, you'd probably be Hindu?
Yes, probably.
Exactly. So you could be having the same argument now about
that's a genetic fallacy.
About the Hindu texts and so on. One of the big problems that religions have is their mutual exclusivity, and we've already seen some aspects of it. If your book is literally true, his book cannot be. His belief cannot be, the Hindu belief cannot be, and the Buddhist is talking nonsense.
That's a flawed argument.
No, it's hardly a flawed argument.
That's actually a flawed argument.
It's not a flawed argument, because what it shows is how we create different religions that suits us at different times. What about the Book of Mormon? The Book of Mormon has no internal contradictions. Fairly recently created. Joseph Smith had the same kind of visitation, except even more so. He could discern the golden writing on the golden plate wearing a special pair of spectacles, which from behind a screen, he would then dictate to somebody else who took down the Book of Mormon. Mormonism is one of the fastest growing religions in the world.
So you're saying that a diversity
it's better written than the Quran?
There's loads of books that are better written than the Quran. The Quran says it's a miraculous
Harry Potter, you say?
It really is not.
You'll go viral with that if you're not careful.
But if I
did say come to be honest. Gentleman at the back, good morning.
Good morning. I think the majority of the debate has been based around the fact that the front row here is looking at arguments why, you know, God might not exist.
What's your evidence for God?
The way I see it, we assume that we need empirical evidences for God. Empirical evidences don't suggest that, you know, we can have a God without there being empirical evidence for him.
Okay.
That would assume that, you know, you can either definitely believe in God or you can't.
Well, that's an abnegation of the intellect.
He says that, Peter says that's an abnegation of the intellect. Yes, sir, what would you like to say?
This debate has been set up very cleverly to almost to almost caricature this old-fashioned sense that science is rational, and over here on the front row we have a group of irrational people.
No, this is a rational scientist who believes in God. He's one of the top physicists in the country.
I know,
and
but
he
also nodded when I said that there is an attempt, in a sense, to caricature belief as irrational. Now, there is a difference between saying that something is irrational and non-rational. And you opened the show, Nicky, with a reference to the Higgs and boson Higgs particle. And there is no evidence for that. And yet there is a great deal of belief within the scientific community that it exists. And I'm happy with that. And science enriches my life greatly, as does religion. And there is a sense of harmony in both of these things. And actually, it worries me. It worries me greatly that the question, is there evidence that God exists, is using a piece of terminology, that being evidence, from the realm of science in a debate, which also includes God. It's a bit like trying to ask a cricket umpire to apply the rules of cricket to a game of football.
But what is the alternative? The alternative is simply a discussion of assertion. You simply say, I believe it, my belief is my belief, it's equally valid to anybody else's belief, there we are, end of discussion, we all go about. Is that really the way in which we begin to kind of settle out the big intellectual questions? I think not.
But there is not a richness in actually sitting and shouting very loud.
That's a different matter. Let's not shout. Let's discuss. But
it's all very civil. You should have. Last week's show was shouting. This is very, very civilised.
There has been caricatures of the gaps, isn't there?
Yeah. I think you're right. There's a danger of just being subjective, I say, you say, and so on. It was interesting, the account of Peter Hitchens, the brother of Christopher Hitchens, describing his conversion back to Christianity. And he went to the Soviet Union. And what was very interesting is looking at a society where atheism had been around for 60, 70 years. And what he noticed was a lack of empathy in everyday life. There was a lack of care. And that he began to realise what a belief in God can do for society over centuries. What happens when that's taken out?
Communism was a form of religion. I was brought up by communist parents, and Marxism was equally structured as a system of beliefs that explained all the world. Actually claimed to be scientific socialism, we called it. It explained the world to each other and so on. The Soviet Union had millions of people in it who, in a sense, were religious.
Yeah, and Carl, you tried to find God. You grew up. You had polio when you were a little boy. You lost your hand in a motorcycle accident. You tried to find God. You went to Lourdes. He wasn't there, was he, for you?
I've seen no evidence for God. I've seen no evidence in my life. I've seen no evidence today. But we have seen something of the Higgs boson last week, by the way.
No, I'm not talking no, go on.
I had a serious motorcycle accident in 1969. Previous to that, I had polio. I've been to Lourdes. I've seen all the crutches hanging up in Lourdes. I went on a whole trainload of disabled people to Lourdes when I was 10 years old. Didn't do much for me, obviously. What astounded me was nobody was cured, and nobody subsequently, since I've been to Lourdes, has had a cure. I doubt anyone ever had a cure at Lourdes. It's just a sham. The whole idea of Lourdes is it's just about money. Religion is a lot about money. I've only once prayed for God. I had an accident at 9:10 on a Monday morning. The ambulance crew swore blind I was dead. They took me to hospital. I was on the table for 9 hours. On Wednesday, if you like, I rose again on the third day. On Thursday, I was in severe agony. So much pain, I did once ask for God. Only once.
Was he there?
I only ever asked for anything once in my life, and he didn't do anything for me.
This is the thing, Stephen. This is the thing. What about those people who ask for God again and again, and he's not there?
Well, this is part of the problem. If there's an expectation that God is going to zap suddenly somebody and say, wow, you're going to have lots of pain today, zap, you're going to be healed today, then we've got back to this notion of God as an old man in the sky with superpowers. And actually, what we've been talking about today is actually, from far as I'm concerned, about a God who's much more to do with that ultimate reality of that sense of awe, that sense of transcendence, that sense of truth and beauty and goodness and love, which is sometimes missing in people's lives. People on this side maybe have found that and want to identify it as God.
Do you think maybe on that side they found it, but they don't recognise it?
On that side, they choose to say, rubbish. But even they've acknowledged that there is something about awe and wonder in their lives too. Great, but they don't identify it as God. Let's agree to
I'm afraid we are